Monday, 17th day of November, here at the Digital News Desk, we have Mayor Sarah Pierce to talk about the meeting for City Council coming up tonight, 7 o'clock start at City Hall. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Public hearing will be held tonight, so you'll get into public comment, pause at 7:15 for this public hearing. And this is something brought forth by Councilmember Cliff Olney, and it's talking about the city charter and possibly making changes to it. Kind of tell us where we are in this process.
Correct. So this was something that was proposed by Councilmember Olney to reconvene a charter commission to look at the charter and see what could potentially be changed. I was not supportive of moving forward with this. My perspective was that we had a charter commission several years ago that came up with a list of recommendations for changes to be made to the charter. There are a number of changes that were proposed that we could be going and making piecemeal without the need to reconvene a charter commission. Some things as simple as language changes in the charter, very small things, but things that we could be doing to move forward the work that was already done by a charter commission previously.
When you say reconvene a charter commission, that sounds mountainous. It sounds like it's a huge ordeal process selecting people. Is it that
laborious?
I think
that's what it would be. It would be time intensive. It would be selecting new representatives to serve on a charter commission, having that commission meet regularly.
And who would they be? Just residents or people that council picks?
I believe it would be people who council selected. You'd have, I don't think it would need to be a member of council heading up the committee, because last time it was former Mayor Smith when he was out of office, and that committee was made up of a number of residents coming from different backgrounds. So I assume it would be a similar process this time. But again, from my perspective, we can already be implementing some of the changes that were recommended by that charter commission. We should start with that before reconvening a whole other committee to look at this.
There's been talk about the form of government that Watertown has, and between what you have now with city manager being the top executive and running the city versus a strong mayor form of government where the mayor would be the full-time employee at a much higher salary than what the mayor receives right now. The difference between the two is you would have a person elected who could be held accountable by to the people, right? If they don't agree with the way the mayor is running the city, they can take care of that directly with their vote. The form of government that we have right now, city manager, the argument is that, well, the voter doesn't get to choose who that is and rate their job performance. Okay, so there's a shield there. Tell me the other way around, because you're not in favor. You like the city manager form of government. I want to hear why.
My preference is a city manager form of government. I think, for one, it provides more continuity and stability. Were you to go with the strong mayor form of government, you would have potentially changeover every 4 years. I do think that even with a city manager form of government, there still is that accountability, because ultimately it's the city council who is going to be taking the heat if the city isn't running the way that people would like to see it run. And if people are upset with the city manager because they don't like the way that things are going, the council is that's the body that answers for that, and that would have the ability to make changes to the city manager if that were the case.
The stability is an interesting thing, because the city of Watertown has had city managers in the past spend a decade or two being the person at the helm, right?
Exactly.
And as a mayor and having a new city council coming in January, you'll have some new people on there. You'll have some experience. Dr. Kimball will have some experience, Councilmember Schoen, but does it help to have somebody as a city manager, and currently Mr. Wagoner is earning that experience. He doesn't have as much as what other ones have had, but is it good to have that person?
I think it is. I mean, just with so many big issues that we deal with on a daily basis, and that are big issues that are years in progress. I mean, we're going to talk about the courtroom tonight. That's something that goes back to 2019, 2018, even before then, I believe. So it's good to have somebody in there who has that day-to-day experience with these major issues, rather than hitting the reset button every 4 years. That's not to say, I mean, if you had a strong mayor, you could have a strong mayor that runs for office, has an excellent resume, does awesome, and they keep getting reelected, and they're there for 20 years. We've seen that before with mayors being in office for that long. So there's pros and cons to both types of government, I think. Just from my personal perspective, I think that the city manager form of government works well. You know, it's something that has been debated for a long time, and I'm sure the debate will continue.
Is part of the debate, if you have a strong mayor form of government, that person could just win a popularity contest and not be qualified?
I think that is part of the debate. I mean, I think you see that happen in government and politics, that, you know, sometimes the most qualified person isn't necessarily the person who gets elected. And I think that that's something that could happen if you had a strong mayor form of government.
Mm-hmm. And in the strong, or in a city manager form of government, that person that's being hired is being scrutinized heavily.
Yes. Yes.
By the 5 council members
Yes.
who are selecting that person.
Precisely.
It doesn't just happen like that if you change the form of government.
No.
Does something like that, if it ever got to the point, does it go to a vote for the public?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure.
That's what the
I think
charter
it could. I think it could.
Yeah.
We could put it out to a vote for the public of the public.
But it doesn't change just instantly.
No, it wouldn't change instantly. I think there would probably be some, you know, things we would have to do, obviously, to transition. It wouldn't be an overnight change.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned the courtroom. You're going to be talking about that tonight at City Hall. The bids came in. Channel 7 reported that the numbers were lower than what was expected. Boy, that doesn't happen very often.
No, it does not, but it's nice when it does.
in this game. Under by what, 1.8 million? I
About
think?
that, yes.
So what's on the agenda for you tonight?
So tonight we're going to be accepting the various bids for different components of the project, the general construction, HVAC, et cetera. And then we're going to be bonding for the project. I believe the bond is just over $7 million. That would include all the various costs with design and whatnot. So this is just another step in moving forward with that project.
To the public, what will they see as this goes through? City Hall doors blocked off at some point?
Yeah, I believe so. We're going to be, I think, using a different entrance for a period of time. There's going to obviously be a lot of construction happening. I imagine that will impact parking at City Hall. So there will be quite a number of changes. Anybody who's been following along knows the envelope of the building is going to change. There's going to be work done on the roof, security upgrades, HVAC. So there's going to be a lot of activity, a lot of construction going on at City Hall.
And a timeline on that, when it all starts up?
I believe they're going to start in the spring. I'm not sure exactly when they'll be wrapped up, but I believe the construction's going to begin in the spring.
Councilmember Schoen always brings up change orders, and you want to make sure, right now it's $1.8 million under, right, and then change orders come in. Could that still happen with this one, or is there something baked in?
Anything's possible, as we've seen, that anything can happen once you get in there and start working on things. That it could happen. I guess I wouldn't rule it out. I'd be hopeful it wouldn't happen, but you know, I don't think you can predict that.
Golf course as well. A lot of talk on that. Is there anything on the agenda tonight?
Not on the agenda tonight. At our last work session, we were presented a number of different avenues that we could pursue for the future of the golf course. Municipal model, a hybrid model that would be basically some of the elements of the way we're operating today, some of the elements of a municipal course, or to just continue operating the way that we are. I will say that in the time that work session took place, I have heard from a number of golfers in the community who have given different suggestions of things that we could change to make it more lucrative there for us, to help us start making money there instead of losing money. So I'm encouraging, if any golfers are listening, to reach out to me, share your feedback, share your, you know,
anything
thoughts
specific?
on what could be changed. I mean, things like changing the operating hours, starting earlier in the day. I have had golfers reach out to me and say, hey, that's a good idea to limit the size of tournaments, because as we heard, the big tournaments aren't money makers for the city. It's more of a headache. I mean, that's kind of what we, I know certain council members have said, it's great, we're having all these big tournaments, we're making money with these tournaments, but it's really not the case. It limits the ability of people who are just going up to play a round of golf with their friends to be able to go and do that. And oftentimes it's, we're not making hardly any money, and I think in some cases we're losing money on those. So that's one of the things that I have heard from golfers on, is to perhaps limit the size of the tournaments or not have tournaments.
Mm-hmm. And start earlier. So, I mean, summer days can start up earlier. We had a gorgeous summer in terms of dry weather, right?
I've heard that from a lot of golfers, that you should open at 7 a.m. because a lot of people will go and play a round of golf before they go to work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Were you surprised at the number was even brought down a little bit more in terms of how much money it lost, right? It was under $100,000. I think that your Parks and Rec brought the number down to maybe $85,000. And that's a big change from the previous 2 years of roughly $300,000
I think that
of loss.
that's definitely positive, that it's not losing as much as it was. The thing that does concern me moving forward is that list of expenses that we're going to likely incur in the future years: golf carts, work on the clubhouse, those sorts of things. So just trying to be mindful of that as I think about what direction this should go in.
Mm-hmm. And you and I have talked before. What's your runway for this? A couple of years, you think? Or do you have to make those investments sooner?
I think some of those investments we can wait on. Some of them have to be, we have to move forward with them sooner than that. But I would say give it another couple years. Let's see what maybe we can change to make it profitable, and then at that point in time, pull the plug if it's still bleeding money.
So to give it a fair shot, do you hire the manager to run the golf course? Because there's some of your savings, right, in terms of this past season.
Personally, it's tough for me to say because I'm not the one who's overseeing that employee and knowing, what the workload is. I would say, I think, we did pretty well that second half of the season without a full-time manager like that. Maybe we don't need to invest the money in somebody. I mean, Jordan was great. I know he had a great deal of experience, but maybe we don't need somebody of that caliber to run things up there.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're not having the tournaments and such, and you're just running it and running it with green fees and having people come up to play, a round of golf. There's still logistics that need to go into that, but so maybe not somebody of the caliber of who Jordan was.
Sure.
Who moved away, which is why he is no longer up there. Well, it's heading in the right direction, one would argue. So giving it a couple of years, it seems like the people coming on council, the two new people, have that same kind of sentiment, and it's good to have a lot of people on the same page. Mm-hmm. So we're a couple of years out, probably.
I would think so, and don't hold me to that because things do change, obviously, with city budgets, different expenses, funding streams that might dry up, that sort of thing, with your state and federal funding. And it's a very fluid process, and often, obviously, when you're talking about budget crunches, it's things like this that are the first to go. But my hope would be that we could implement some changes, make it profitable, and hopefully that would happen over the course of the next year or two.
Mm-hmm. And I think when it comes to things that lose money for the city and recreation, you know where I'm going, it's going to talk about the arena, which is about $500,000.
Sure.
So it's not that much. If it's $80,000 or $100,000 of a loss, how do you balance the two?
Well, I think you have to look at they're two very different animals. You have a golf course that's used a handful of months a year by a small percentage of the population. Then you have the arena that is used every single day of the year, with the exception of a couple holidays, I think. Every single day of the year, pretty much from sunup to sundown, with the ice time that we rent out and so on and so forth. So I think that those are two very different assets. I think when you look at a city the size of Watertown, most cities this size have an arena that offers programming and recreational activities to residents. I mean, the arena serves everybody from children all the way up to the elderly in our community. It's just something that's a year-round asset that's used by people every single day of all ages. And I think to compare the two, you really can't accurately compare the two.
And as long as we're talking about that area of the city, the pool, we did a story here at Channel 7 with the new council members to get their perspective on the Altieri pool. The money was there to kind of tear it out, and that was nixed from the budget to save some money. That'll clearly come up in the next round with budgeting next year, come April, May. Where do you go from here with that down there? Because you wanted to have more of a year-round venue, right?
Well,
you were thinking of a splash pad,
yeah.
maybe an outdoor skating area. Is that
Yes.
still where you're going?
Yes, I think so. I don't see myself ever changing my mind that I would think it would be necessary to add another pool, once again, in the mix in the city. I think that the numbers have proven that our city is sufficiently served by the pool that we have at North and then the pool at Thompson Park. I think that something needs to be done with that area. Obviously, you can't just let it sit like that forever. I'd like to see perhaps what kind of grant funding is out there for a recreational project like this. I know when I was working in Senator Ritchie's office, we oftentimes had funds from the state that we were able to dole out for projects similar to what we would be doing there. So maybe something would come up that would help with the cost, but I don't foresee, at least from my perspective, going back in time and having a third pool there. I think it's time to move forward, address that space, and put something else there. As you mentioned, the ideas come up about a hybrid ice rink outdoors and a splash pad in the summertime. I think that would be great.
Mm-hmm. And state has a new program, New York Swims?
They have the swims program, but I've asked about this before, and I don't think that this would be a fit for that program and funding through that program. But you never know. I mean, things change in the state budget, and they may change the guidelines for it moving forward if it's included next year. So we'll see.
Well, they do fund splash pads. I mean, Canton, I think, is getting a splash pad, and I think that's funded through the state.
I don't know. The thing is, I don't know how they would feel about us having a pool, because the whole swims, the focus is pools,
Sure.
but having a pool and having it there, and I think probably their preference would be to rehab it and open another pool, because I think the focus of the swims program is largely about swimming safety.
Mm-hmm.
But, maybe if we make that case for a financial situation and just say this is going to serve more of the population more of the time, maybe.
Well, that's interesting. If the state came and said, hey, we'll pay for the renovation of Altieri Pool, you guys have to open it up, where would you sit on that?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Because the city would
Just
still have
because
the
you're
cost
gonna
of
have-
operating it.
I think it'd be great, and you never want to say no to grant funding, but you would have that ongoing cost, which is one of the reasons why there was support for not opening that pool. You have the ongoing cost to run it as far as maintenance and supplies go, and then labor.
People, yeah,
Yeah.
which are hard to find anyway
Yes.
for lifeguards. A lot of
Absolutely.
people compete for those. Anything else on your list that you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think
That's
we
it?
hit the major stuff.
Meeting tonight, 7 o'clock, City Hall, 7:15 for the public hearing when it comes to the Charter Commission. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right.
Thanks.